Here I am, after so many years, haunted by hatred, trapped by fear. I'm in a box, no place to go. My mind, no, it's not on my own. Help me, I'm the prisoner. Won't you hear my plea? I need somebody, yeah, to listen to me. You, brother and sister, counting on you, yeah. Peace and love. Welcome again to the NEPC podcast. I'm Brother Frank and I'm with former political prisoner
Abdul Haq Islam.
Today's episode, we focus on the contributions in the life and the times of Thomas Sankara, uh, of the land of the upright man. You know, he put it all on the line. He was a martyr. And his demonstration of what you need to do for your people, if you truly love your people, is exemplified by our current political prisoners, people like Kamal Siddiqui, Joy Powell, Ed Poindexter, Mia Abu Jamal, and others. But before we go into our discussion, we would like to give condolences to the family of the longest held political prisoner at one time, doing over 67 years in prison, Rochelle McGee. You know, his fight was strong and long. It was very unfortunate that after all them years in prison that, you know, he passed out a free man after, well, a so-called free man after only about 2 months. So those who are involved in this fight to free our political prisoners, please let us be reminded that, you know, every effort is counted, is needed, and time is very important because of what they have to endure. But that being said, we honor his legacy by continuing to fight because his position was that he had a legal right to resist. And that's something that we need to internalize when we look at what's going on in Palestine. Rochelle McGee would not be forgotten. We would continue to fight stronger and continue to be inspired by his effort to continue to fight because we realized that, you know, it could have been worse. He could have died in prison. but in fact, he died a free man, a so-called free man amongst people he loved, and being inspiration to others to never give up. So, brother.
Yeah, hearing the story, the history of Rochelle McGee, makes me feel strong inside. I can feel strength coming into my spiritual muscles, my will to resist and stand up. It becomes fortified hearing of his courageous stand against so-called insurmountable odds. He's another great example in our history of black Palestine. This is the month of the martyrs. We have a new martyr, Rochelle McGee, just passed away. This is the month of the martyrs, October. There are many martyrs in Palestine. 3,000 murdered by America and Israel. Oceans of martyrs' blood must become ink to tell the truth, must become fuel to energize us, to take our pens to typewriters, to get on microphones, to get on various means of communication, to tell the truth about what's happening in the world, to tell the truth about the Anakba, a subject for which professors in American colleges are fired when they teach their teachers. 1948, 250,000 Palestinians were driven out their homes by violence. They try to act like the war just started last Saturday, but it's been 75 years of violence. What happened last Saturday, some civilians was killed, and incidentally, I've been telling Muslims for years, do not kill women, children, nor the elders in war. I don't know if this message, I don't know how many people this message will get to, but we are in a propaganda war, and when you violate this teaching of Islam, Prophet Muhammad said, do not kill women, children, nor the elders in war. The enemy will use this as a propaganda tool, in spite of the fact that since 1947, the death toll on the Palestinian side is 15 times more than the death toll that happened on the Israeli side. I got a shirt here that I shared with the people. Can the camera see this? It says, Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, do not kill women, children, nor the elders in war. All right, this is my design. This is a star crescent. The crescent has a turban and a beard, and the star says true Islam. So we cannot allow these people, when there are violations of Islam, for those violations to be defined as Islam. Since the Nakba, 1947, there's been five wars against Palestine. There's been many attacks, including Shatila and Sabra, Jenin, many. There's been violence, oppression, and apartheid. And one of the talking points that the pro-Israeli forces like to come with is that God has an everlasting covenant with Israel.
And one of the things that we have to look at when we talk about Palestine and we look at the legacy of Thomas Sankara is that it's always been an attack on the people's self-determination.
Correct.
People have a right to resist. Just
Correct.
like Michelle McGee said, you have a right to resist. That you have a legal right to resist. And Thomas Sankara, that's exactly what he did. He resisted the oppressive forces. He resisted the ideas of the oppressor, and he did things in a way where it was going to elevate and advance his people. He was responsible for making sure that 10 million trees grow. This way, your country would become a desert. He was responsible for elevating women and making sure that their rights were protected. And he made sure that the ideas of Marxists were going to be was going to be normal. And he lived by example. And I think that needs to be understood, because when we talk about our martyrs and we talk about their sacrifices, we're talking about a certain way of life. And I think that needs to be internalized by people when they start using these names as something to validate their point. When they make references to people like Thomas Sankara and people like Michelle McGee, and you talk about sacrifice, you talk about standing on principles. So I just wanted to insert that, because as we talk about what's going on currently, we gotta let people know that there's been things that happened in the past that is no different from now, because those two time periods they only are different because they occurred at different times. But yes, it's still the same system, as far as somebody being right and somebody being wrong, somebody having power and somebody not having power, somebody controlling somebody's destiny, and somebody is fighting for control of their own destiny. So if you know that there's something wrong happening and you don't stand on the side of right, then you're wrong. So I think that's what I wanted to say. So continue the discussion, brother.
Yes. There is a war going on, and they try to pretend that the war started this Saturday, but this war has been going on for more than 100 years, and a very, very fundamental element in every war is propaganda. So we must make it clear, through messaging, that the enemy is a liar, that Israel and America are liars. This America, the same gang that dropped 2 atomic bombs excuse me, on Japan and murdered 250,000 people, just testing atomic bombs, murdered 250,000 people just for fun. And just, and got a big laugh out of it. Murdered 250,000 people. Has murdered more than 140 million African people. Has murdered 500 million dark-skinned people around the world, for the god of money, and in this propaganda war, we must make the people understand that the enemy is a liar. One of the lies that they tell is when they lie on God and say that God has an everlasting, non-conditional covenant with Israel. In the Bible, it says that Israel broke his covenant with God, and in the Quran, it says that God does not have a covenant with wrongdoers. God does not have a covenant with people who are down and dirty, with infanticide, with genocide, with apartheid. So we must ask the public that is listening: do you think that God has a covenant with people, who practice genocide, who practice land theft? Israel is a fundamental weapon in the West, Britain, America, and France, and other Western countries, in their system of colonialism and imperialism, and that it helps the West to steal oil and to bully and to arm rob deals, you understand, which favor the wealth and the enrichment of the West. That is the deployment of Israel. That's why there's so much propaganda out right now, you understand, one-sided favoring Israel.
And one of the things that I wanted to bring out too is Thomas Sankara's position when it came to people being independent and being very cautious about who helped them and supported them. He had a quote that said, "He who feeds you controls you." Right? And he did not want to take no money from the International Monetary Fund. And I think that that's what we need to ask ourselves when somebody is giving us something. What do we have to give in return? And that's why independence is so important and it's sacred and it's something that you have to fight for. And you have to be organized and you have to be committed when you're standing or standing for that fight. And I was looking at something yesterday, right, and it disturbed me because you have this entertainer by the name of DJ Khaled, who's Palestinian, and it's been said on this platform that he wasn't taking a position when it came to what's going on in Palestine, and that's very unfortunate because some people get comfortable in their current situation and they don't want to bother those who finance them, and being that they don't want to bother those who finance them, agitate them, or make them think twice about or what they're giving them, then they remain silent. And I don't think that that's something that we should tolerate, right? If you stand for something, or if you are benefiting off of people giving you their time because they want to be entertained by you, then they should be compensated in more way than just you entertaining them. You should be of moral principles, right? Because their time is invaluable, and I think that people should raise that to these entertainers who are just on the sideline and not saying anything where there's the injustice happening. Because you're guilty by your inactivity. You're allowing something to continue when you have a position to raise consciousness to others about what's going on. So, when we see something and we know that others can do something or be involved at some level, we should raise that and see how far we can take that situation, including myself, right? Because we come on this platform to have dialogue with people, not only to give you information, but exchange ideas to make us better. That's why we say like, comment, share, and give us something that we have to consider. So, brother, what's your position when it comes to these entertainers when they knowing what's going on in Palestine?
Yeah. Well, to them and to Negroes also who know the history of what we live in, but yet still at the same time support the global international armed robbery of resources and land, you understand, which America and Israel are down and dirty with. I go to the example you made of how when people reward weaklings and underlings for unprincipled behavior, within our analysis, we include the aspect of operant conditioning, which the enemy uses, in the same sense that when you train a dog to do what you want him to do, and you give the dog a little snap, and so the dog learns then what to do. It's a form of learning. You can do the same thing with a rat. You give a rat little pellets, and train the rat to run around on a wheel, so run around in circles, So this type of analysis mobilizes, you understand, and makes our humanity rise to the surface. It's an appeal, a challenge to the honor, you understand, the self-respect that we have within ourselves as human beings, you understand, to not be dull, and treated like a little mouse or something, you understand, which cowardly bows down and obeys its master, for little peanuts, you understand, but instead, to aspire, to the real values in life, you understand, to liberation, freedom, dignity, independence, to be able to tell the truth about what's going on. We talk about Palestine. This past year, the U.S. has murdered one Palestinian every day. You understand? In the past year, there's been great violence against the Palestinian people. They talk about, like I said, I've been saying for a long time, do not kill women, children, nor the elders in war. Last Saturday, they say it was some innocent civilians killed, But what they leave out of that is that many of these so-called innocent civilians are armed settlers that have carried out atrocities against Palestinian people, have murdered, have stolen land, live on stolen land that they took, through armed robbery from the Palestinian people. So this is something you're not going to get in the mainstream media, but this is something you understand when you hear the truth. This is something we encourage the masses, to spread the word, to spread the messaging. You understand? And in the spirit of what we learned in the War of the Fleet and Che Guevara's book on guerrilla warfare, that a so-called large entity like CNN, the news media, people might see this as overwhelming, might see it as godlike, but when we understand the history of how migrant groups and individuals come together, they can defeat the enemy much, much larger than themselves. And the same thing is true in the propaganda war, but many, many messengers out here getting the truth out here, you understand? We also create an atmosphere where the enemy is labeled as a liar. So everything the enemy says now, people immediately investigate, fact check, you understand? Distrust, what America said, because America now and Israel are telling so many lies that when the truth comes out, the historical facts of what's been happening, the massacres, the 5 wars, the Nakba, and when they took the land from 250,000 Palestinians today, they're in the process of taking the land of 350,000 more Palestinians, through armed robbery. When that truth gets out there, it creates a power in the people to tell the truth and to defeat the falsehood, you understand, which feeds the enemy's war propaganda.
Yes, you have to control your own narrative when you're fighting an oppressive forces and you're fighting oppressive ideas. And I think that Thomas Sankara understood that very well. He played the guitar and he wrote their own national anthem. So now each and every day when you sing about your nation and where you're at, you did that on your own terms with your own words. And that's the whole propaganda war. You know why you fought for so long. You know the sacrifices that you made, and you know that you're gonna have to remind yourself about that each and every day. And because those ideas that you fought against, you have to fight with them with other ideas that are beneficial to a collective. Right now, we understand that the oppressor says that the few are going to pay the many are going to pay the price for the lifestyle of the few. And how do you combat that? You combat that with ideas that are representative of the interests of the collective, and that has to be done on a regular basis. You have to let people know that this is what we're going to stand up for, this is what we're going to fight for, and we're going to do it together. Everybody has a role to play. So Thomas Sankara, when he was in his position, it was often that you'll see him working with the people. And they would call him an African Che Guevara, because if you're familiar with the sacrifice and commitments of Che, you see a number of photos of Che working, doing what needed to be done, because we will all benefit from our work. So we chip in, we do what needs to be done, and we're all going to benefit from the work, right? And that's when you have the concept of certain industries being nationalized. Or now there's going to be an idea or a way of doing things that's going to be counter to those who came along and had the system the way they wanted it for their own benefit. So when we look at our political prisoners and we look at our martyrs, we're looking at expressions of love at the highest level. And how do we express respect? We express respect through committing ourselves to carrying those ideas out. We don't let our political prisoners die in prison. We write them. We let them know that they have people who have compassion for them and want to see their interests met, want to see them come home to their loved ones and be treated the way that they should be treated. Treated like we're being treated by our loved ones. When we engage with our loved ones, we go to a number of family functions. We're able to exchange ideas and talk about what's happening currently and make decisions on how we're going to live our lives. So that's the struggle that we have to fight for. So we have to include our political prisoners in everyday discussions. The situation with Palestine, you would include your political prisoners with that. Because the Palestinians have their political prisoners because they're fighting the same fight. They're fighting for self-determination. They're fighting to control their own destinies, just like our political prisoners are. And because of their position, they are suffering. They are being persecuted. They are being imprisoned for an extensive amount of times. And we have to fight that fight. We have to fight that fight to bring them home and not let them die in prison. That means we have to organize. We have to commit ourselves to marches, rallies. We have to be creative. We have to come up with concepts or come up with ways to include our political prisoners in everyday events, community functions, and let people know that, prior to us having a meeting or having organizational system at play, there was those who came before us and doing the same work. They led by examples. They gave us a model to follow in which we can emulate wherever we can. So I think that people need to understand that concept about the examples of political prisoners, the examples of martyrs, and wherever you're at, you have to do your part to bring them home. When you think of Thomas Sankara, what comes to mind, and how does that inspire you to fight for political prisoners and those martyrs who led examples and sacrificed so much and showing respect to them in practice?
His fight against imperialism and colonialism, the rise of people up, in opposition, to fight for what is righteous, to be clear on what's right and wrong, and to be willing to put it all on the line. This is what martyrs and freedom fighters do: put it all on the line for the masses. And we talk about the martyrs in Palestine. The Muslims have a great responsibility to take up in that regard, in that this war is also a war against Islam. So it's the Muslims have work to do in terms of propagating Islam, explaining Islam. You understand? They say, the enemy says that God is on the side of some criminals and some genocide and apartheid, that God is on the side of that stuff. So we must present a true concept, a true Aqidah. Aqidah means knowledge of God. For example, God is not the son of any other God. God, you understand, is an independent in his existence. God does not depend on the Father God for his existence. God is independent. God is all-knowing. You understand? To say that the Son does not know the hour, when God is all-knowing, so there are necessary divine attributes that one must understand to understand the nature of God, and this is a talking point that our enemy uses to confuse the people, to get them on the side of wrongdoing, to get the masses on the side of criminality and genocide. We are people who have undergone genocide to get us to pay our tax dollars and to join a military, you understand, that practices genocide on dark-skinned people, and so that's something to think about, So we must, like I said earlier, the blood of the martyrs around the world must become electricity to move our fingers to the keyboard to type, and it must be ink that we use to write the truth. You understand? And so we're saying that we encourage people to join in the messaging, the righteous messaging, and like I said earlier, to spread the word to the Palestinian people, to Hamas, do not kill women, children, nor the elders in war. You understand? And to keep it up, and to know that we are going to win. We're winning already. That the forces, while they're telling the truth, you understand, are numbering the forces that are lying, and we're going to win that war, and we're going to win, period.
Absolutely. It's a long-term struggle. We got to stand on principles. We got to remember our martyrs, Thomas Sankara, and all the sacrifices that he made. And then it's documented on what he did for his people. And we got to follow those examples and practice how we live our lives, right? It's a lifestyle. It's more than just saying you respect somebody. What are you doing to show respect? We got to stand on the side of justice, meaning that we can't be neutral when it comes to what's right and what's wrong. We either on the side of what's right or we on the side of what's wrong. Because you could be quiet and you could ignore something that's happening, but that doesn't mean that that's right. That's meaning that you chose to take a certain action against what was right. And we have to really think about that. We have to challenge, and it's the challenging, right? Because to stand on the side of right, meaning that you got to prepare yourself for consequences. There might be a force that's present that's going to challenge you based on you taking a position against them. Because that's exactly what you're doing. You're taking a position against what's wrong. And the same thing with political prisoners. At any moment in time, me and my brother, we can be felt with some kickback from our oppressor or the state, because we're saying that our political prisoners are freedom fighters held because they chose to fight for freedom on behalf of oppressive people. Uh, on behalf of those who are oppressed, and not just ignore what was going on. And because we represent an idea that's counter to them being empowered, then we can feel some backlash. But we accept that responsibility because those who came before us accepted that responsibility, and because they did what they did, our lives is a whole lot better than it would be. Because when you look at history of people being oppressed, and you look at the fight and the struggle to free people, then you see the casualties, the martyrs, the political prisoners. So in 2023, when we look at various martyrs in the month of October, the month of martyrs, we salute them. We express love. And now that Rochelle McGee has made his transition and is an ancestor, we don't forget his sacrifices and his commitment and his long, extensive prison term. Imagine him being uh, just over 80 years old and being incarcerated for over 67 years. So the majority of his life was behind bars. And let us not forget that. So let's fight harder to bring our political prisoners home. Let's not let them die in prison. So y'all know the call.
Freedom, I just want to say,
So closing remarks, bro.
yeah, um, to get some information on what's going on in Palestine. I mean, I'm not telling nobody don't look at CNN, but if you do look at CNN, go to radio station WBAI and compare, the information you getting there with what the corporate media is saying. Okay, there's an organization called PalestineNature.org. Look that up, PalestineNature.org. Look up Anakba, ANNAKBA. Like I said before, professors in American colleges are fired for teaching about the Anakba. The Anakba was 1948 when the Zionists stole 250 the land from 250,000 Palestinians. Now we're not saying hate Jews, but you can be against Zionism and not you ain't got to hate Jews because of that. We're not advocating that, but Zionism is a crime against humanity. So those are some sites where you can go to get some correct information about what's going on and share the information that we just gave you, you understand, in this little segment, you know, and we need more people to join in this campaign to get the truth out there, to hit falsehood in the head.
So as we sound off, just want to let people know about this important, powerful album. It's streaming on all platforms. You know, there's a lot going on in the world. So make sure that you take time out to protect your mental health. Peace in the Chaos by political prisoner Veronta Bowers on all streaming platforms.
Yep.
Catch me at Safu Sankofa at Gmail. Let me know what you think about this important, powerful album. How does it make you feel mentally? Again, that's SEFUSANKOFA at gmail.com. And the name of the album is Peace in the Chaos. We're living in some challenging times. So this album will definitely help get your mental health in order, get it aligned. And, you know, the call, free them all.
Free them all.
What's the call?
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 Free